I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
Because I think I also tried to be careful about not making our relationship just about our kids.
Exactly.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. Today's episode is about the Super Bowl. Well, it's about a lot more than that, but a good chunk of the story revolves around something that happened at the Super Bowl this year. And with that story that I'm not going to give away as the backdrop, we get to explore questions of parenting, sex, shared responsibility, and of course, my favorite topic of all, conflict. David and Allie are old friends of mine. They moved to Manhattan for their careers several years ago. David is a columnist for a major newspaper, and Allie runs an ideas conference that you've probably heard of. And I met these two when they were unmarried and childless and very social. And now they're career-focused parents. Life's a little different, but somehow they've managed not just to keep their sex life alive, but to deepen their intimacy as well. Now, this is one of my longer interviews, so I've got the second half out as a bonus for Patreon subscribers. If you'd like to hear that, I'll have it posted up on Patreon in the next several days at patreon.com/together. So with that, let's go to our interview with David and Allie. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for coming.
Yes. I got to have dinner with the whole family.
I know.
They're so great. Little kids and their little plates and their sweet little adorable.
Chaos.
It wasn't even really. I mean, I've seen some chaos.
Yeah, that's true. Tonight was a good night.
It was a good night.
They were funny.
Cute little baby standing at the door wondering what we're doing. It's good stuff.
Trying to burn himself on the range, the stove.
Were you there when our 1-year-old turned the stove on?
I saw one of you grab him, but there wasn't too much drama, so I figured
He came right after.
Oh, I arrived right after that happened at the house.
And then he tried to do it
he tried to do
several
it
more
again.
times. Yes.
Yeah. Has he burned himself yet? Because
No.
that's a thing. Everybody has to burn themselves on the hot stove at some point. That's a metaphor.
I'm going to knock on my wood table now.
He can do that on his own time. I'm not ready for that. Yeah.
Maybe that's the that's the graduation moment. You're not, you can't let go of your attachment to your child until they burn. I don't know. I'm totally making this up. Am I on any kind of a right track?
They definitely have a penchant for hurting themselves in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, like Tolstoy or whoever said, each child will hurt themselves in unique and special ways.
Yes.
Well, what's insane is that when they're hurt or sick, you carry that and you feel it probably not as bad as them, but equal or close to. And you avoid it at all costs.
Is that a thing you didn't realize was true before? Had you even heard that before from other parents?
I guess I imagined it, but I didn't really. I guess you can't really understand it.
It's visceral, though. If they're really sick, and they get sick because they're toddlers and one of them's in school and they're germ magnets.
Yeah.
It's super painful, just internally, spiritually painful to witness that.
What does it mean? What does that mean?
Well, they're like extensions of yourself.
Yeah.
Both, biologically and psychically.
Psychically too.
Yeah.
To the point where you feel their pain.
At some levels, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if neurologically, but emotionally, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't feel it at all when David's sick or hurt.
Thanks, son.
Not in the same way. There's compassion, but I don't feel like I'm carrying it. But I'll take care of you.
And I think our children, just for reference, are 16 months and almost 3. They're 18 months apart.
Okay.
And what's particularly hard for me is that they don't necessarily understand what's happening to them. And so when I get sick, I'm like, drat, I have a cold or the
Right.
flu, and I'm going to watch Netflix and drink Emergency, and I'll be out of it in a couple days. Whereas for them, they don't fully understand that. They don't have the mental framework to understand that this is a couple day thing, and that there are things you can do to make yourself feel better, and you ought to sleep, and it'll
Yeah.
all be over soon. For them, they're living in the moment so viscerally that it's almost like the entirety of their experience in that moment. And that's difficult to know that they don't have the perspective that we might.
Yeah, it's critical to them. Well, yeah, and then, so you have to sit with them not only in their pain, but their existential dread about their pain.
But oh man, it's so sweet when they're sick and they're cradled in your arms and they just sit there. That's the best part.
But see, I guess I'd push back. I don't know that they have that existential dread. I think that they're just experiencing it like in the moment.
Yeah, with no sense of time, which makes it more it's all encompassing by definition. It is their everything.
Yeah.
And that makes it even more painful for you because you have to go into that space.
I think that, we're getting at it. I think our almost 3-year-old is starting to understand time pretty well. And so if we can say, we talked about just before going to bed, we said it's going to be snowing tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we use that as an incentive for good behavior tonight because we're like, you need your rest and your energy for tomorrow so we could play in the snow. Mm-hmm. And I think that helped get her down. And she knows what it means that it's going to be snowing tomorrow.
Yeah. So you guys are in what I love to refer to as the zombie years, where, everybody knows in theory what it's like. You don't sleep. Sex usually goes out the window. Your alone parenting time, your alone time with mom and dad is limited. Mm-hmm. And it's even worse. It's exponentially worse with 2 kids, from what I've been told.
Right.
And you guys are 3 years into it, right?
Almost.
Can you remember, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Can you remember what it was like before?
It's interesting because there are things we miss about, well, I'll speak for myself. There are things I miss about our former pre-kids life, but there's also so much joy right now. Even though when you're weighed down in the thick of it and both kids are screaming for only you and you can't get a break and they're not going to sleep, it's exhausting. And you're like, have I showered today? Have I done this today? Or when was the last time I exercised? But
it's so funny from the outside.
I know. We're both working full time. We're both trying to parent as full time as possible. But, the minute we do put them down, we're looking at photos of them and laughing about them and loving them.
Yeah,
and, we miss them already. So
just to set that stage, I went to the bathroom for literally less than 3 minutes. And I came out and you guys are watching videos of the kids that you just put to sleep. That's a definition of hilarious.
Yeah. Man, we love them so much. But I also don't think that we've sacrificed our relationship at all.
That horror, like that zombie film that you just sketched out, is not our lives.
No,
it's just not. I mean, we
now, is that you saying that, or is it you and Ellie saying that?
But, I mean, listen, we used to sleep more.
Yeah.
And I've adjusted some, but that's about it. I mean, we still spend a fair amount of time together. Mm-hmm. Our sex life has not disappeared.
Is it the same as it was? Is there any difference?
Are we going to go there on the podcast?
Well, let me say why I'm specifically asking that. So I have several listeners who've said you don't talk enough about sex. Mm-hmm. And the specific question that I get a lot is, how do you adjust after having a kid and to sex? Like, how do you keep a sex life alive after having a kid? And we've had couples come on before and talk about the technique of it, of the things that you do to do it, which maybe you have some insight into or maybe you don't. But the way you just talked about it is different than anybody I've ever heard. For you, it has the sense of it having been automatic. And I'm curious if you are conscious as to why. Like, why would that be? This is not an automatic thing for most people.
Okay.
And I don't think you're lying.
I'll talk about sex and you don't have to.
Okay.
And if you want, we'll edit all this out. So before we got married, and we might come back to this a couple times. Before we got married, we went to premarital counseling, and it was one of the best things we ever did.
I loved it.
Genius.
Loved it.
Yes.
It was at the request of one of our co-officiants at our wedding, who asked that we do it, and we were a little skeptical and reluctant, and it was undoubtedly one of the best things we've done as a couple, and just one of the greatest things of my life, even though we probably went to like 8 or 10 sessions
Yeah, it
total.
wasn't many.
But in there, it was a safe space, and I was able to say openly to you, like straight to you, I don't know if you remember this, but I was like, sex is really important to me, and sex is an essential part of this relationship to me.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an essential part of our marriage. And it sounds like you might not even remember this.
I have no recollection of this.
I was like, great, I got that on the table. It's out there. It was huge for me to be able to say that and not have it stigmatized. And so in my mind, that made it safe for me to regularly want sex in a healthy way with my wife. With my fiance and then my wife. And for that not to be kind of like an added bonus of this marriage.
Right.
And for me to be able to express that actually, no, it's something essential.
Yeah.
It's one of the core elements.
Especially during this, what you call zombie time, when you are feeling a little like frazzled and your normal existence is a little disruptive and you don't feel like you're having continued conversations as easily.
Yeah. And even before that, we could talk about like married sex versus non-married sex versus sex with toddlers in the next room, but and those are all those have different flavors. But for me, I think it was really important, and maybe this has just been me, but it was useful for me just to acknowledge for myself, even if that's all it was, just admitting to myself that is a real and fundamental need. That I'm not gonna sweep under the rug, and I'm not gonna stigmatize, I'm not gonna feel bad about, and I'm not gonna barter around. And that and that I can be open and honest with the fact that that's just part of, at least for me, part of marriage.
It's so great you had that mechanism to give yourself permission to be honest about that. What's funny is that Allie, it was a big moment for you, and you didn't even remember.
No memory.
Now, do you think that could be?
And I have a good memory.
She has the better memory in this relationship for sure.
So I'm imagining that could be for at least 2 reasons. One, I'm thinking is it was never a big deal to you.
Right.
It was a no-brainer that was the case, so you weren't surprised. Or the other one was when he said it, it made so much sense that now you've assimilated it.
Yeah, both of those options make sense, but...
Can I posit a third?
Yeah.
That she decided to ignore it.
Well, that would be an interesting one, actually. You're saying it as a joke, but what are the odds that was it? Because that's actually
I don't want to think about that.
But it worked out.
Yeah, we have a healthy sex life, which isn't to say that like we have like porn star sex every night. That's not a healthy sex life in a marriage
for you.
For me, right? For us, that's not what a healthy sex life in our marriage looks like. It's like acrobatic, sex from like a swing.
It's so funny that people have to go there,
right?
If it's healthy, it's it's cinematic,
right? I
don't know that that's the case either.
No.
But it is funny that we go there.
Yeah. I think that raises an interesting question: is like, what is a healthy sex life? That's very subjective.
For sure.
And let me also posit that we probably don't need to spend the next 20 minutes of this podcast unpacking that and defining it. Let's resist that temptation.
I can leave if you guys want to do that.
But that is the point, that it's subjective. And okay, and you guys nailed that. So,
but I'm happy to continue.
I think David's very good at checking in, and if like he said that during therapy you gave yourself permission to allow this for yourself. I don't You just said it. But I feel like if there is any bump or if he's upset in any way or like feels like we're out of sync, he addresses it.
Yeah.
Nothing stews.
Is
sex and otherwise.
Is that in every area that David's the one who is the sort of barometer of?
I feel like at the start, for sure, and I think he's really coached me into speaking up and being more vocal and less adverse to conflict. Because
you're very nice, right?
I am.
Is that a thing about you?
She's the nicest.
She is the nicest. And which is a great strength, but can also be it can also be a what's the word for that? Achilles heel.
Right. No, David's good at calling me out on it. And he's really helped over these 10 years of, I'll get off a phone call with a loved one, friend, family, and he'll be like, that bothered you. Call them back and tell them. And I'm like, no way,
That's so great.
But he really holds me to it. So I really.
Do you do that?
Yeah, I've done it once or twice. Once or twice, if it's important to me. But before I wouldn't do it. And, I came from a family that we didn't really have much conflict. It was mostly just everything's great.
Oh, I don't know that. I think that you came from a family that didn't air conflicts.
Yes, that's what I've tried to. Yeah, Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Which is a fine and important distinction. Yeah, you guys were all burying the conflict.
Yes. Yes, or we didn't address it, or we didn't know how to speak about it. Whereas, that's something you've really helped me with.
Dude, we could all use a David Gellis on our shoulder in that way.
Although poor David had to write a book about mindful work and being mindful.
Yeah.
So man, I can hold that against you at any time.
I know.
You're not being very mindful.
Aubrey does it to me too. It's so funny. If I'm being a jerk in the relationship, she's like, "Oh, Mr. Relationship Podcast."
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
So great.
Exactly.
Okay. So, what I want to know. So he coaches you to use this particular skill. What about when you do it to him?
You also know me so well that if I don't even have to verbalize it. He'll know. There are many times where you've been like, "What's going on up there?" And then I just say it. Or, the truth is that we don't have as much conflict. I think we have bad days, or we're frustrated or exhausted, and we may say something that's interpreted the wrong way or come out in a wrong tone. Sometimes.
But I'm thinking of a moment, I don't know, 10 days or 12 days ago. I was being an asshole. Yeah. And she called me on it right away, and I was like, I was being an asshole. I'm sorry. and I tried to understand why I was there. And it was a little of this and a little of that and a lot of exhaustion. I mean, it was zombie years.
Kind of exhaustion, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That was a part of it. But she called me on it, and she was right. And I think I apologized.
I love conflict so much. So, all right, you just said a funny thing, an interesting thing, though, that you guys don't have much conflict, but that there is. You have conflict out in the universe, but not with each other. Like, what does that even mean?
I mean, I guess I remember it was during Obama's second inauguration, we got into, we don't get into fights, but the Patriots lost or something. It was a big game. David was upset, and I was mad at him because he was ruining all the inaugural parties, and we were dressed up and out with our friends, and he was being so Debbie Downer
about the Patriots.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they lost the AFC Championship game to the Ravens, and I hate the Ravens.
Yeah. Anyway,
we'll get to this in a moment. That's a great stage-setting comment.
Yeah, but it escalated into me crying at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum talking to Frank Luntz. It was weird. and then at the end of the night, he's like, "You got to be better with conflict. You got to be more comfortable with fighting." And I was like, "What just happened?" It was one of those things that made me realize we have such a good, stable relationship where we don't escalate disagreements or conflicts to that level where I can remember maybe 3 times in our 10-year relationship where I've cried about an argument we've had.
Well, let's make a distinction between conflict and fighting.
Okay.
Because I would guess that conflict of some kind is, commonplace, right? That's sort of, it's always, because conflict, push back on me at this, but but isn't it the case? Like conflict, in some way, is just where our edges touch other edges. Like we're limited by definition of being human. We have limits, and they bump up against other limits, and that's at its most innocuous sense, that is a conflict. But you feel some more than you feel others, right? Because you don't get everything you want in the family.
No, but there's a huge degree of acceptance in our relationship. Acceptance of what each other want to do and how each other want to spend our time. And I think it's predicated on a foundation of trust in one another, and a trust that at the end of the day, the most important thing is our family and our children and each other and this relationship. And we know that so much that when Allie, like 2 weeks ago, there was like some party that I didn't want to go to. And Allie was like, I want to go. I was like, great, it's Friday night, go do your thing. And then the next night, again, it was like a Saturday night and you wanted to go out with your girlfriends. And I was like, totally fine. And I stayed home 2 nights in a row. And some of my guy friends were like, oh, made a big deal of it, as if that was like a big sacrifice or that should have been a point of conflict.
I'm scrunching my face at those guy friends right now.
Yeah, but for us, that was just...
like me going to a wedding, traveling to a wedding by myself and not making David come to a wedding with me if it's my friend or I think...
Or just the weekend I just had, which is another, we're teasing ahead to something it sounds like you want to talk about. But again, I think it's
acceptance and support.
Yeah, acceptance and support of each other's priorities it diffuses a ton of conflict. Which isn't to say that Allie doesn't sometimes wish I was around more, because I'm the one that works out of the house more often and travels more often. Right. But that's not a source of interpersonal conflict between us.
Right. And I know, and he knows, like, if we had a choice, there's no one or no place we'd rather be than with each other. If we have an option of every night going out with friends or being here, like, I want to be here with my family.
What are the odds that you'll get a date by this weekend? Well, if you're on Match, they're pretty good. 1 in 3 relationships start online, and more start on Match than any other dating site. So if you're single and looking to meet people, you've got to get on Match. We already know that online dating works, and Match is the way to go. They're not only number 1 in first dates, but in second dates too. Match makes it easy to find that great connection. You can also download the Match app to have matches sent directly to your phone. Meeting your match has never been easier. Just go to match.com/together, and for a limited time, you can try Match for 7 days free. That's 7 days completely free to search and connect with thousands on Match. So go ahead, create your account now at match.com/together. That's match.com/together. Is it fair to say then that the root of conflict, or inversely, the root of lack of conflict in your relationship, is the lack of risk, the lack of danger in one another's actions? Because what I'm getting at is the idea that if somebody takes an action that you're not okay with, it's because it's somehow threatening to you, and then that drives up a conflict. But you're saying that with the two of you, there's this trust that that neither one of you is being a threat, that you're doing the thing that's best for the relationship somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also just we leave a lot of room for each other to be independent and to have our own priorities and lives.
Trust.
Okay,
but then why is there conflict in anywhere in your world? Because can't you just allow everybody to be?
I don't have a lot of conflict in my life.
No, I don't either. And I mean, I think the conflict we do have is usually when one of us is having an off day and we're say something off color or off mark, or we're exhausted or we're preoccupied, and then we move on.
Yeah.
And we're all allowed to feel and behave.
But neither of us have regular conflict in our relationship, or with our friends, or with our work, or with our parents. I mean, all of those things can drive us crazy from time to time, but it's not as if any of them are sustained sources of stress and conflict.
Now, you hinted that Allie's childhood was outwardly calm, but one of the elements of that was that you guys were avoiding conflict in the family.
No, I mean, I had an amazing childhood, and I love great parents, and my brother's my best friend, one of my best friends, and we had an idyllic childhood growing up. But in retrospect, I don't think we really got deep or really delved into like emotions. And
I mean, I didn't either.
Yeah, and what was your that was what I was going to say. What was the difference on your end?
Fundamentally, probably not much at all.
So then what's this thing where you have facility when conflict does arise and you're telling Allie that she needs more of that? Like, what? You're good with conflict, she's not. Kind of is what you were saying? I mean, maybe I'm over-dramatizing
I think in the beginning,
but
for sure.
I think what it is, and I attribute some of this to studying Buddhism
I would too.
And meditation, is I've been trained to address conflict when it arises and to meet it head on and to get to the root cause of it and understand it and address it, to give it a chance to go away, rather than fester it, let it stew, sweep it under the rug, which I think is not a trait unique to Allie or to her family by any measure. I think that's kind of standard operating procedure for a lot of people. We kind of ignore it, we sweep it under the rug, we push it away.
And let me and I do amplify that voice. I've noticed the families that a lot of us refer to as healthy and happy are a lot of times pushing conflict under the rug. And they are healthy and happy in many ways, but in that way, not fully self-expressed.
Right.
Okay. All right. And so you're saying your family maybe was the same, but the Buddhist training,
which came later in my life,
had you explore, face, and deal with conflict directly.
Yeah, I mean, that's meditation practice at a fundamental level.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now let's skip to the Super Bowl trip. So first of all, tell the story that you already told me.
The short version is, I've already mentioned, I'm a meditator, a sporadic meditator. And a few months ago, a buddy of mine and I agreed to go on a meditation retreat, and we booked it. We scheduled it for a weekend in February when both of us were free.
5-day silent.
Yeah, 5 nights, 6-day, fully silent, hardcore monastic meditation retreat, which I've done before, but he hadn't.
Yeah.
And so we get to a week before we're supposed to go, and he's driving. He's my ride up there into the boonies, and he just gets cold feet. And I totally understand it, and it was a combination of work reasons and just trepidation about that much silence. It wasn't right for him, and I said I totally supported that. I said it's fine. We'll either do another one later this year or we won't, and it's cool. And it was also especially cool because about a week after we signed up for that, I realized that I booked it for the Super Bowl weekend.
Which is a big deal for you.
And I realized a couple months ago, I was like, my Patriots have a good chance of being in the Super Bowl. Yeah. And so then I had all these, game theory.
We talked about it forever.
Spent hours trying to figure out, do I break silence and watch the Super Bowl on my
meditation
phone?
Conundrum, isn't it?
It was, and there was no good answer because the answers were, break the rules of the retreat and stream the Super Bowl in my room on my phone silently.
And that would ruin the whole retreat.
It's so hilarious.
Right. Not check the score or watch it at all and just think about it the whole time.
Right.
Or check the score that night and then freak out thinking about it. So I was screwed no matter what. Yeah. Anyway, he decides not to go, and so all of a sudden I'm free, and I'm like, cool. So we plan to host a Super Bowl party and we invite everyone, which we usually do. And then a few days later, I'm hanging out with a different friend, and this different friend, we're talking about the Super Bowl, and he's like, "Do you want to go?" I was like, "Yes, of course I want to go."
And you thought that was a credible comment? You didn't think he was just...
Oh, no, I know. I mean, he's got an amazing job and amazing access, and he was able to just invite me. And a couple of days later, it came through, and it was real.
And a couple of days later was days before the game.
Yeah, I got the initial invite a week, the Sunday before the game, and then it all came together on Tuesday.
Which was all in the midst of the time that you were already supposed to be gone. Right.
And I guess relevant to this discussion, I said, yes, I'll go, without ever asking my wife. And I knew I could say, I had full faith that there was enough acceptance in our relationship that when Allie heard I had this opportunity, she wouldn't think twice.
Yeah.
And so I said yes, and I went, and it was amazing.
And it was amazing.
Yeah, and that's why my voice sounds a little funny because I lost my voice screaming at the Super Bowl.
And then your team won. And that's a historic moment, right? I mean, that will go down in history as one of the great all-time football games.
It was a good Super Bowl to go to,
Yes.
as a Patriots fan especially.
As a Patriots fan. And again, I should add, like, Allie comes from a hardcore Boston sports family. Allie grew up seeing Bird at the Garden. Her dad still has Pat's season tickets. We go. So it was this meaningful to go, as a member of this extended family.
Well, another way of saying that is that it would have been as awesome for her to go as it was for you
Heck
to go.
yeah.
She would have wanted to do that as much as you did, but it was an offer to you. It wasn't an offer to her, and it wasn't an offer to the two of you. And you unhesitatingly said yes.
Yeah.
And then he said, you go instead.
I was just going to think, like, I actually don't know if I would have been as cool as you were if you had gotten the offer to go. I think
we already established how nice I am.
it would have been. I actually know I'm acknowledging this. I would have had a much harder time with that. I believe I would have gotten to a good place with it, but I would have had a harder time with that than at least you did on the face of it. Mm-hmm. You didn't let me see it if you were having a hard time.
No, I was thrilled for you.
Okay, let's dig into that, because I think you were thrilled to him.
I was. I mean, it didn't... Well, one, he was going to be gone anyway, and this time I could at least talk to him.
That's a great perspective. You said a thing, though, when I first got here, which was that things just work out for David.
Yeah, he's got... I mean, the best man at our wedding had this whole talk on the Gellis touch, where, we're both very happy, lucky, fortunate people, and it was just comical the way his path to going to the Super Bowl unfolded so perfectly. It's like the stars aligned, and David was there to watch the most epic, historic Super Bowl game in history. But, it's not like it just happens. I mean, David's, I don't know, maybe it is spiritual where you just throw out so much goodness that things just happen. Yeah. What do you think, hon?
I try to be careful about it.
I know.
I feel blessed every single day. And I think the truth is, most of our circle of friends and acquaintances are pretty tremendously blessed. Eric, you are also one of the luckiest people alive, and a lot of our listeners are probably some of the luckiest people around, because we live these amazingly privileged lives with amazing resources and, God willing, good health and amazing opportunities and access. So,
that's so true.
I try to stay in touch with that in a pretty big way. And that's part of my relationship practice too, to bring it back to... Allie knows what I'm about to say now, and she doesn't like it.
She's laughing, though. Does he have permission to say whatever the heck this thing is?
Of course he does.
So, back in our premarital counseling, she was asking us about why we were choosing one another. And I grossly oversimplified and said something that's probably inelegant. And yet I really maintain there's a fundamental truth at the heart of it, which is that if it's not your shit, it's someone else's. Mm-hmm. And you don't like the way that comes out, but...
Because it doesn't make a person feel special.
Right, which I totally get. Yeah. Which I totally get. But what I'm trying to convey with that statement is that, back to my Buddhist training, it is our human nature to always be wanting more.
Yeah.
And to always be seeking perfection. And it would be all too easy for me in a relationship to say, well, Allie is a great wife in these 15 ways, but in these 3, boy, it's just not living up to it. So this relationship, I got to move on. Or it would have been all too easy for me to say that when we were dating or engaged.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to convey when I said that inelegant statement that I still stand by is that it comes back to acceptance. Like, it's about accepting the full package and not always chasing that ideal. Which isn't to say that Allie isn't like my perfect wife. You are, honey, and for all the reasons we've been talking about. But there's something that I still resonate with that, and I check myself because I'll catch myself getting. Usually, if I'm pissed off or frustrated with you, it's me wanting you to. I'm asking in my head for like an idealized version of you, which is unfair. Which is just unfair. That's when I get pissed off. Is when my expectations are totally out of line with reality. Which doesn't mean that I'm like accepting something bad. It's that it means that I'm out of touch with reality, and I'm trying to stay in touch with reality.
Yeah. But it does raise the question of how do you walk the line between the two truths in this regard? The truth of allowing what's so to be so and acknowledging that the seeking of perfection is impossible, is a dead end, is the source of pain. And that if you were with a different partner, there would be different joys and different pains. On one hand, and on the other hand, romance and the love of the perfection of the two of you together. How do you reconcile those two really different ideas that both appear to be true for you?
This is your train of thought.
Listen, I think romance comes, there's like as many flavors of romance as there are ice creams. That doesn't mean one thing to me. And for us, I mean, part of our romance is gratitude. I mean, I think that's like a core part of it. We both feel really grateful to be with one another and to have these lives and to be sharing them with each other and our kids. And that's really romantic for me, at least. I mean, that's the source of a lot of our romance. It's not about how perfect each other are. I mean, at least that's not what it is for me.
Right. I agree. And it's nice. I mean, I can see people listening to this without kids just rolling their eyes but we still make a lot of time to go out to dinner or to be alone. And, our kids typically are really good about bedtime, and we have a lot of hours in the evening alone together, even at home. So I feel like, we may not be at a candlelit dinner at the hottest new restaurant in New York City, but I totally agree with there being different flavors of romance, and I think we do that well.
Well, can I add one important footnote?
Yes, because I'm asking a more conceptual question.
Okay,
I think you're probably about to.
Well, I don't know. My only footnote is that when I said gratitude for all this, I'm very aware it's not gratitude just for our kids, because I think I also I've tried to be careful about not making our relationship just about our kids.
Exactly.
It's gratitude for being together for 10 years now, for being able to witness her be this like amazing professional. Like, I love watching her in action when she's working, and it's a big high profile thing. She has pride and interest in what I do professionally. We love each other's families and are very engaged with them. So it's not, again, I think, and it's something we've seen other couples do, where it becomes just about the kid. And I think we're not explicit about it until right now, in a way. But like, we're aware that can become a thinner foundation for couples as they go on. Yeah. For marriages.
Okay.
But that's not the concept you're getting at.
No.
What are you asking?
That was a really important point, I think, that we don't say directly and clearly enough in our culture, where we can get caught up in our circumstances, and parenting is the biggest and most arguably important circumstance that couples face. And it can devour a relationship, and having an understanding of that distinction is really important. So thank you. Now, the question I was trying to get at was what you were trying to protect Allie from, which was your inartful but true statement that it's inartful because it's not, and I'm using the word romantic but not meaning to take us down this roses and candlelight pathway. I'm saying that the essence of romance is kind of this acknowledgement that, well, wait a minute, I better not define what it is. Let me ask you a question instead, Allie. When he says that, why isn't it romantic? When he says, if it weren't your shit, it would be somebody else's, or if it's not this shit, it's other shit. Why is that true but annoying?
You know, we haven't talked about that in a long time. And I remember there being a great New Yorker cartoon that essentially said the same thing that we had at one point in our relationship. But this was more, you know, it's looking back at our relationship and those 2.5, 3 years, I don't know, however long we were dating, most of which was long distance. And then we're living together in San Francisco, and we're getting inundated with people saying like, oh, when are you getting engaged? When are you getting engaged? We were like late 20s, almost 30, and everyone's asking us. And we would always be together. And David, when they asked, and I just watched David just roll his eyes at like getting another person wanting to know when he was going to propose to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, that sort of manifested in a weird dynamic with our relationship that we got to talk about a lot in the couples therapy, but it was more that reaction where the more people tell you to do something, the less you want to do it, because you're like, oh. And then, you know, we both come from families of divorce, and we don't have great role models for parenting. And, you know, David...
For marriage, maybe not for parenting.
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Parenting, we had excellent role models. Marriage, not the best.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
I know. I love my mom and dad so much, and yours. That was wrong. Anyway, I feel like hindsight, of course, too, but I was caught up in that, you know, when am I going to get engaged? Is he going to propose to me? And then I see, and he was so honest with me. I mean, I remember when I had a little meltdown when we were in that moment of like, will we get engaged? And looking back, we were together like a year, living in the same city, like a year and a half long distance before that. Such a small period of time in the grand scheme of things. And he would just say honestly to me, like, I have doubts. I don't know, like, about marriage and what I want and where I'll be in 4 years, 5 years from now, and things like that. And then that's when the conversations of, like, I think the acceptance of, like, yeah, I'm ready to get married. It was less about me. It was more just about him and being ready.
Yes. I hear this particularly from women a lot, that they don't feel special because it seemed like it was just finally he was ready and I was the one there.
You know, and I mean, when we first met, I was 26 and we were babies, and then we started dating when we were like 27, 28. So it feels still so young looking back, even though we were older than some people when they first meet. Blah, blah, blah. But I do feel like, you know, if I'd met David when we were in our early 20s, we wouldn't be married. Like, timing is a huge part of every relationship and where they are in their lives and if they're ready. But I just laugh thinking back at how insecure I was and wondering if, you know, and it was so frustrating to me at that time too, that like he got to decide when he was going to propose to me. And, you know, a lot of people, and I like that romanticized version of like getting proposed to and getting engaged, but it also pissed me off. I was like, why is he in control? Like, why am I auditioning for this? I mean, that just drove me nuts. But this whole idea of if it's not your shit, it's someone else's. Like, I actually didn't take that personally at all.
But it's the same. It overlaps with the idea of the timing issue.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not a critical thing for you guys, but it's the reason I'm on it is because I've heard this so many times. So, but there's also an element of practical truth to it. So what do? I mean, you guys are in love, and yet there's this kind of loose end at the beginning. How do you hold that?
I don't know about a loose end.
Okay, all right.
And I don't think either of us were really attached to that comment as if it was like making or breaking. I mean, it was more...
So before we started recording, Eric, and I think you were even putting the kids down, Eric and I were talking about luck and how much, you know, you use the word predeterminism. I don't know if I go there.
Yeah, it's a little too far.
But the degree to which circumstances that we don't control shape our lives. And listen, I have no doubt, hun, that if we hadn't met, you would be in an amazing relationship with amazing kids because
agree.
you're an amazing woman. And I feel the same way about myself. And I guess that's what I was trying to get at is, and maybe this kind of pops the bubble of like the soulmate. Like I don't come from a worldview where, Ali and I are like two souls floating in the universe that were destined by this orientation of the planets to meet one another. And I feel like cosmically, like all the pieces of the puzzle came together and a star exploded as a result. I feel like really, really fortunate, grateful, gratitude that I met someone who I'm so compatible with and who's made the effort to create a life that we both love and can share together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
And I think that's part of, maybe that's even a more accurate representation of the truth that I'm trying to get at with that statement, which is that we're lucky to have found one another.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's luck. And, it was not a result of like any choices we made other than that we were like put up with one another long enough to realize that it was right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a beautiful way to say it. It's like acknowledging the chaos and the potential of for things to go another way,
Right.
and acknowledging how lucky it is that it went this way. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been really a total blast. I'm so grateful. Thanks for having me over.
Well, this was
Thank you.
fun. I'm a very private person. This was nice.
You came out of that shell bit.
Well,
I was
we're
good.
trying,
It was good. All right, now I like to end episodes with a quick game of this or that.
Oh,
You know how
gosh.
this works.
Okay. No.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a this or that, and you're going to tell me what you prefer.
Okay.
All
Same
right.
time or individual?
I'll point to who answers first, but you each have to answer this. You each get an opportunity to answer each question. Okay, David, if you could, let me just make a hard one for you. Either never write another word, but run a Fortune 500 company or some kind of awesome company that you always wanted to run, but you could never write another word. Which would it be? Wait, did I say I didn't set that up very well? Or the opposite. The opposite. Which would it be?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Okay.
I didn't set that up at all. God, that was a total fail. Let me start easier so that I can warm my own brain up. Allie, chocolate or peanut butter?
Peanut butter. No brainer.
David, chocolate or peanut butter?
Chocolate.
Okay, death by lava or shark attack?
Neither.
You one or the other, sir.
What's quickest?
Lava.
Yeah, I think lava too.
Oh, that's probably quicker.
Joe versus a volcano. Jumping right in.
And I'm part Hawaiian.
Right, so you've got roots with Pele. Yeah. Okay, I'm not making up bespoke ones. I'm just doing my standards. If you had to, Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Batman.
You guys don't care about these. If you had to either have enlightenment or $1 billion,
Oh,
Enlightenment.
$1 billion. Just kidding.
wait, just kidding. You were so certain. What?
Well, I feel like we're a good team. So if he gets enlightenment and I get the money.
Okay,
No, she's serious.
is that because enlightenment is baloney or what?
I guess. No, I don't think it's baloney.
Just money's better.
No, I don't know. I don't think I read too much into it. I think that I feel pretty grounded in who I am, and it would be wonderful to be enlightened, but I'm happy with where I am, and I think I could do a lot of good with a lot of money.
Sounds enlightened. Okay, and if you had to either die in the next 5 minutes or live for infinity, which would it be, Allie?
Infinity.
Infinity.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh my God. Those two beings.
I'm
in
not
the
ready.
room.
I'm not ready to go. So I'll stick around.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Guys, thank you so much. This was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for our interview with David and Allie, folks. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a huge difference to our ratings when you subscribe, so we really do appreciate it. And you can find the bonus episode that we'll be posting up, which consists of the second half of this interview, at Patreon. You can find our Patreon page at patreon.com/together. And we really appreciate your visiting that page as well. Thanks again to our sponsors for this episode, Match.com. If you'd like to take advantage of their 7 days free to try out their service, you can do that at match.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out to us via one of our platforms. Our website is www.together.show. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.show. Well, that's it for today, folks. See you next week.